We've been together for over 11 years now, and we have always been non-monogamous. Hello. My name is Tatiana, and welcome to this podcast. You are listening or watching Kitchen Table Chats, exploring sexuality, relationships, and ethical non-monogamy. Who am I? I live in Portland, Oregon, with my partner of 11 years. My partner's name is Devin, and I am an artist. That I basically do a lot of things. So I paint large oil abstracts on canvas. I knit. I hand sew. I am a lover of all things craft. I am, as of recording this, I am 40 years old, and I have been very interested in sexuality and relationships. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. It's something that's been a huge passion of mine for as long as I can remember. I have always been interested in sex, sexual pleasure, intimacy, just everything surrounding it. I even considered going into becoming a sex therapist. I do have my psychology degree, but it's just not something that I ended up pursuing. But I often feel like I live that out in my day-to-day life anyway, just because it is something that I love talking with people about. But like I said, I have been interested in this since I was really, really young, and was always doing all kinds of research on all the things that can be researched. And but when it comes to like non-monogamy and starting to explore that aspect of relationships, it really started with my high school sweetheart. And for those of you that don't know, I have a blog, and I decided to do a whole series on my sexuality, like the evolution of my sexuality, and I kind of titled it that, series of evolution of my sexuality. And because of that, I really dove into everything. So you can really read that and learn more information there. But that led to me being interviewed on a podcast of someone who's very dear to me, and just kind of started me on this journey of realizing, yeah, this is what I am known for. This is what people come to me for, because the podcast is not about sexuality, but the podcast is called Mudlark, and Danny Bolts is the person who interviewed me, and she is now a dear friend of mine. But she had heard through one of our mutual friends that I was writing a blog. I was talking about my sexuality, and in that I talked about ethical non-monogamy and being in a successful relationship that was non-monogamous for over a decade. And she was intrigued and wanted to know more about it, and she wanted to interview me for her podcast. So she reached out. We did not know each other at the time, and even though it was terrifying to me to really push my boundaries in that way, and really be vulnerable to such a large audience, I felt like it was something I needed to do. I just knew I needed to do it. And it's been incredible to hear how many people still share that podcast episode with their friends, with their families, with their partners, to talk about non-monogamy and just that exploration. So that is something that really started this whole thing. I feel like I just got so off track, but it's okay. Let me get back to, that's right. Okay. I remember now. I was talking about my high school sweetheart, and I started talking about my blog. So my high school sweetheart and I were dating since we were 15, and sorry if I lose track my train of thought. I will always hopefully find my way back. But we were dating and broke up, got back together, back, off and on. We loved each other so much. We're super interested in each other, but we knew eventually that we weren't going to be each other's person, which was hard. But because of that, and because of not being able to really reconcile, how do I love this person so much and still be sexually interested in this person, but not be able to commit to them long term, for life, marriage and all. How do you reconcile both of those things? Which we just kept coming back to each other. And but then, college, meeting other people, and we started dating other people. I ended up getting married right out of college to somebody else, and we lost contact with each other for that time. But let me see, how do I tell this story? During my senior year of college, I realized that I was also interested in women, which was new to me, of recognizing that in myself. I grew up very religious, in a very religious household. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. A lot of my family is still practicing Seventh-day Adventist. I was even in school from kindergarten through college in a Seventh-day Adventist school. So I was pretty sheltered in a sense. And school was pretty strict and everything. So I know that a lot of people who go to public school are exposed to a lot of different sexualities and identities and gender expressions and everything, which is incredible. But I didn't. The only thing that I knew outside of being heterosexual was that men could be gay, because my mom's hairdresser was gay. And so I knew that was an option. I knew what the church believed about that option. But I didn't even know that women could be interested in other women. I didn't know women could be gay. I had no idea. And so it was really interesting. My senior year of college, there was this stunning woman or girl at the time from Burma that we were in cultural anthropology, one of our cultural anthropology classes together, and I just was dreaming about her, and just all of these new feelings blossoming inside of me of wanting to be, affectionate with her and touch her hair and kiss her and be intimate with her, which I was oh, okay. I didn't know that was a possibility, but obviously I'm thinking it, feeling it, so it's obviously a possibility. And wonderfully enough, I did not judge myself. I don't know how I didn't judge myself coming from that background, but I didn't. And I told my boyfriend at the time, um, about these feelings, and he was like, cool, I'm fine with it. And but being in a Seventh-day Adventist college, I knew that if I were to try and act on any of those feelings, any of those desires, I would have gotten kicked out. Like, I'm hoping it's changed now, but back then, that would have been the case. So I didn't say anything, I didn't do anything. And that boyfriend and I ended up getting married, and he had said, if we get married, I'm fine with you exploring this side of your sexuality while we're married. So I was like, okay, that's great. And we got married like right out of college, basically a year after I graduated. So I think I was like 22 when we got married. And we decided to try and get pregnant right away, because of the traditional lifestyle that we thought we wanted, which was, kids, family. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was what I thought I wanted. That's what he thought he wanted, and we were trying to get pregnant, and then I was like, you know what? Let's talk to a financial advisor, see if this is even something we should be doing right now, which thankfully we did. And they were like, nope, you guys are too young, you have no money, so you don't have a career, you don't have good jobs, like, just take a moment, So I'm so grateful that we did that. But then I was like, okay, so we're not going to get pregnant right away. Like, can I still explore this part of myself? Can I date women? And we agreed that it was fine. So back then it was Craigslist. And that's where I found my first date with a woman. And this was in Colorado, just outside of Denver. And this was 2005. So I went on this date with this girl, and I remember her saying, like, I really love being intimate with women, but I don't like hanging out with them, or something like that. And I was like, what? I don't understand that, but okay, I guess you're not going to be the person that I'm dating. But I was still just like so excited to be on a date with a girl, and like all of these like things were just like, it was like fireworks going off inside of me, even though I knew like this person wasn't going to be the person that I was going to date. But I was just excited for the journey to begin, and then I could explore this part of myself. And then I think it was like the next week, I realized that we had actually gotten pregnant, and everything came to a halt. And my whole life just felt like it like shut down around me, which was really hard, because this is what I thought I wanted. I thought I wanted to be a mom. I thought I wanted to be in this marriage. I thought all of these things, but just going on that one date shook everything, because it forced me to look at what I actually wanted versus what I thought I should want. Which was just the beginning, just the beginning of like my entire journey of trying to figure out who I was. But, I was pregnant, and that was that. So I shut down that part of myself, that exploration of my sexuality, and like focused on being as healthy as possible and preparing for bringing a child into the world. And I was reading all the books and taking care of myself. And, 3 months into the pregnancy, the worst happened, and I ended up miscarrying, which was devastating. For as much as I wasn't sure anymore that I wanted to be having this baby and like being in this marriage, nothing can prepare you for that sense of loss and failure and grief. And I want to go into that in maybe another episode, or maybe on a blog or something, because I think it's an important topic to talk about. I feel like it's so common. It happens to so many women, and oftentimes more than once, but it's just not talked about, and a lot of society just kind of like sweeps it aside and expects you to just sweep it aside. So yeah, it's an important topic, but trying to move on from that grief brought me to therapy. So grateful, so grateful for getting into therapy. It's just made the biggest difference in my life. I'm still in therapy. It's just so important for me, and I think just so important for everybody. But yeah, finally getting into therapy and starting to like face the questions of, who am I really? What am I doing that I actually want to do for myself? Like, what is reality versus what I grew up thinking of, like the ideal me, conforming to my ideal life, my ideal sense of self, my everything, all the shoulds in my life. How did that compare to like the reality of who I am and what I actually want? So that was the beginning of the journey, which led to my ex-husband and I getting a divorce. We both realized that like we weren't each other's person. We weren't meant to be with each other. And luckily, we both came to that conclusion, and we were able to get divorced amicably and move on with our lives, which is, we feel lucky that, we didn't have any crazy stuff happen in that ending. But in that ending, I did move to LA, and I went to fashion school, but I also got reunited with my high school sweetheart. So all of this is now starting to get into really, actually, I forget to, when I was still married, and once I was like kind of through the most of the grief, like I had processed a lot of it, we decided to try and open up our marriage again, and date other people. This time, both of us trying to date other people. And at the time, again, it was just Craigslist, and then there was Adult Friend Finder, which was really just for like sex. It wasn't even for like relationship development or anything. And it was a lot of like couples looking for other couples. So it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And there was some, I didn't have the framework. We didn't have the framework back then, or even just like the language around what non-monogamy, especially ethical non-monogamy was. And so there was just a huge learning curve that we did not do gracefully in that relationship. Unfortunately, there was a lot of miscommunications, not a lot of transparency, and just it caused a lot of issues. So, but again, I learned so much in that. And then when I was divorced and I moved to LA, and my high school sweetheart and I tried again. We were like, okay, we're single, like, let's try this again. We're living in the same city again, because he was living in LA. And it was so wonderful just to like be with him again. But we also had to face again, like, we love each other. We're desperately into each other, but where's this going to go? It's not going to go where either of us are happy long term. So, we would start dating other people, but still feel that connection with each other. And this is when we started really exploring compersion and like non-monogamy, of like still being connected to each other, but like dating other people and like sharing our experiences of dating other people and being intimate with other people with each other, and like being so happy for each other in that, and like even being turned on by hearing about each other's experiences with other lovers. And it was a really interesting thing, and it was so intuitive for us. We never had to really think about it. We never had to like discover it. It was who we were. But there were, a lot of relationships that didn't want non-monogamy. So we would be monogamous with these partners, and then when they would end, we would come back together, and it was this like ebb and flow between us for years. And then I met my partner Devin, and after I was dating my high school sweetheart, and we decided this wasn't going to be a long-term thing, I kind of threw myself into dating women, and went to Dinah Shore, mostly because Pat Benatar was performing, and I had to go see her, but ended up meeting my first girlfriend, who I just like completely madly fell in love with pretty much instantly. And she was just visiting with friends from New York. So, a few months later of like going back and forth, LA, New York, she moved to LA, and we were together for 3 years, and still love her. She's still, I consider her family still, like incredible person. But then after that ended, I was just really dating women, and in between kind of going to my high school sweetheart. And then I met my current person, Devin. And at the time, Devin was identifying as a cis female. But about a year into our relationship, he started exploring like his gender identity and gender expression. He was always a very masculine presenting person, way more masculine than any of the other women I had dated, but really just started exploring more and more. And now he uses he, him pronouns, and identifies as like transmasculine, non-binary. So I met him, and I had just come off of a relationship that I had been cheated on pretty badly, to where I was feeling very vulnerable around like someone just not being transparent with me, and possibilities of it affecting my sexual health. Luckily everything was fine, but I was just feeling very betrayed as to like what could have happened, and was wanting to talk with Devin about like, let's just make this us. Let's just be monogamous. Like, let's keep this safe and everything. And I had the conversation with him like on our 4th date, and I was like, I think looks like we're going in this direction. Do you think you're okay with us just kind of like being just the two of us, just being monogamous, and seeing where this could go? And he was like, gosh, like, I am so into you. I am so excited about where this could go. I really am attracted to you. I really want to be with you, but I have to be honest, like, I am in an intimate relationship with somebody else, and I'm just not ready to end that aspect of the relationship. He's like, I understand if that's not okay with you, but that's just kind of where I'm at. And like, him being so vulnerable and honest with me when he could have said like, oh yeah, no problem, and like done what he wanted to do. Like, he didn't know how I was going to react, but he put it all on the line and was completely authentic with me. And that just like opened my heart to him so incredibly, and just made me trust him so much, because I saw his authenticity, I saw his vulnerability, and someone being that honest with me is really like a love language for me. I love it so much, that I was like, oh my gosh, okay, yes, that's incredible. I actually have somebody that I would still love to be intimate with as well. And I told him about my high school sweetheart, and so we were like, cool, let's figure this out. Neither of us had really successfully had a non-monogamous relationship before, but we also had never had somebody willing to be so transparent and like vulnerable, with just like putting it all out there and like holding space for each other to feel the feels and process. And it was the perfect, all the ingredients were there basically. And still at this time, like, we didn't have the language around it. We didn't have any examples in friends or anything. So I don't know. I don't know. It just, again, was something that was, I guess, innate in both of us, and we were able to navigate it together because we were invested in each other and this relationship. And it just worked. We were able to talk with each other about things that came up, boundaries that we were comfortable with, not comfortable with, just it was, there's a lot, and I'll go more into detail in further episodes, probably as like talking with friends. But we've been together for over 11 years now, and we have always been non-monogamous. We're not always in other relationships, and we're not always both dating at the same time. It's very organic for us. Like, things just kind of ebb and flow, schedules ebb and flow, interests ebb and flow, that kind of stuff. So it's like there's, but it's been always on the table. Like, we've always been able to date when we want to date, and that kind of stuff. And I'm very excited to get into all the different aspects of, how it started versus where we are now, because it has evolved. Our own journey and the way that we have practiced this relationship style has evolved incredibly. And we're way more comfortable now than we were even in the beginning. It's been so fun and so amazing. And we've both learned so much more about ourselves in being in this style of a relationship. And we've just met some really incredible people. So, yeah, I think that that's probably a good place to kind of end the personal story. More will come out. I'll be able to share so much more as conversations happen, as it naturally occurs. I'm hopeful that you'll get to meet my partner Devin at some point. He's not sure if he wants to be interviewed at this point, but fingers crossed. So I hope you have a wonderful day, night, week, month, year, and I'm excited to see you again. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.